Have you ever found yourself stuck in a situation where the solution seems to be part of the problem itself? Sounds like a logic loop, doesn't it? In our world, these paradoxical situations aren't just mind-bending puzzles, they're real issues we face in various fields, construction being one of them. Imagine a scenario where the start of a task depends on its own completion. A classic case of a logic loop. But what are logic loops and how do they manifest in construction? Let's dive in and find out. In simple terms, a logic loop is a situation where the output of a process feeds back into the input, creating a circular chain of events. This concept, while fascinating, can lead to some complex and often problematic situations. Imagine a dog chasing its tail. The dog sees its tail moving, so it chases it. As it chases, the tail moves more, which prompts the dog to chase even more. This is a simple illustration of a logic loop. An action causing a reaction, which in turn influences the original action, creating an endless cycle. In the world of construction, logic loops are a bit more complex, but follow the same fundamental principle. Here they occur in project scheduling, where a task's completion depends on the initiation of another task, which, paradoxically, cannot start until the first task is completed. This creates an impossible situation, like a dog forever chasing its tail, but much less amusing and far more problematic. Consider the characteristics of a logic loop. It is by nature circular with no clear starting or ending point. This makes it difficult to calculate schedules using the forward and backward pass technique, a standard method in project management. A logic loop, therefore, not only disrupts the typical unidirectional flow of a project from start to finish, but it also hinders accurate scheduling and planning. The impacts of these loops can be significant. They can cause delays, inflate costs, and even jeopardize the entire project. For instance, if pouring concrete relies on the completion of a framing task, but the framing cannot begin until the concrete is poured, we find ourselves in a logic loop. The project is effectively stalled, with no way forward until the loop is resolved. Now that we have a basic understanding of logic loops, how does this concept apply to construction? Imagine yourself supervising the construction of a new skyscraper. You're in the heart of the city, the sky is clear, and the steel framework of what will soon be an architectural marvel stands before you. Everything appears to be going smoothly, but let's delve a little deeper into the process. Consider this: the concrete structure of the 10th floor can't be completed until the steel structure of the 11th floor is in place. However, the steel structure of the 11th floor can't be installed until the concrete structure of the 10th floor is complete. Do you see the predicament we're in? This is what we call a logic loop. It's a classic catch-22 situation where one task can't begin until another is completed, but the second task relies on the completion of the first. This is not just a theoretical concept, it's a real-world issue that can occur in construction projects. In our skyscraper example, it could be due to the design of the building, the order in which tasks were scheduled, or a combination of these factors. It might seem like a minor oversight, but it can have a significant impact on the entire project. Perhaps the 10th floor needs a particular type of concrete that's still being developed, or the 11th floor's steel structure is being shipped from overseas and is delayed. Whatever the case may be, the end result is the same: a logic loop that stalls progress. Logic loops are like a knot in the thread of construction planning. They disrupt the flow, making it impossible to trace a clear path from the beginning to the end of a project. They prevent us from using conventional techniques like the forward and backward pass to calculate the schedule, leaving us in a perplexing situation. In this scenario, we are stuck in a logic loop, as the completion of one task depends on the completion of another task that hasn't started yet. So, we are stuck in this logic loop. But what does this mean for our construction project? Well, logic loops in construction can lead to a variety of implications, all of which are detrimental to the success of a project. One of the immediate impacts of a logic loop is delays in the project. Because a predecessor activity can't start until a successor activity is completed, there's a holdup. This holdup can create a domino effect on the rest of the project, pushing back timelines and causing significant delays. Delays in construction aren't just a matter of time lost, but also a matter of increased costs. Every day that a project is delayed is a day that workers need to be paid, materials need to be stored, and machinery needs to be rented or kept on site. Over time, these costs can accumulate and become a significant burden on the overall budget of the project. But the implications of logic loops in construction aren't just financial. They can also pose potential safety risks. For instance, if a project is rushed to make up for lost time caused by a logic loop, workers may cut corners or skip safety protocols, putting themselves and others at risk. In addition, if certain tasks are performed out of order due to a logic loop, it could lead to unstable structures or unsafe working conditions, again posing a threat to worker safety. The domino effect of these implications can also lead to an erosion in stakeholder confidence. Delays, cost overruns, and safety issues can cause clients or investors to lose faith in the project, which can have long-term implications for the reputation and viability of the construction company. In essence, a logic loop in construction is not just a minor inconvenience, it's a serious issue that can lead to delays, increased costs, safety risks, and a loss of stakeholder confidence. It's a problem that needs to be identified and resolved as quickly as possible to prevent these negative consequences. Clearly, logic loops can have serious consequences in construction, but how can we avoid them? The key to avoiding logic loops in construction lies in careful planning and management. Now, what does this entail? Well, let's dive into some strategies that can help us steer clear of these pesky logic loops. Firstly, consider using project management software. This tool can be a game changer, as it visualizes your project timeline and the interdependencies of tasks. This way, you can spot any potential logic loops before they become a problem. Software like this often has built-in features to flag up and prevent these loops from forming, making your job a whole lot easier. Next, let's talk about implementing a well-defined workflow. This is a clear, step-by-step process that everyone on your team understands and follows. It's like a roadmap, guiding you from the start of a project to its completion. The more detailed and clear your workflow, the less room there is for logic loops to sneak in. Remember, confusion and ambiguity are the breeding grounds for these loops, so clarity is your best friend here. But what happens if, despite your best efforts, a logic loop still finds its way into your project? Well, that brings us to our third strategy: regularly reviewing and adjusting the project schedule. This is not a one-and-done deal. As the project progresses, you'll need to continuously revisit your schedule, adjusting and tweaking as necessary. You might find that a task that was once a predecessor has now become a successor, or vice versa. By regularly reviewing your schedule, you can catch these changes early and prevent a logic loop from forming. And there you have it. 3 effective strategies to avoid logic loops in your construction project: using project management software, implementing a well-defined workflow, and regularly reviewing and adjusting the project schedule. It might seem like a lot to take in, but remember, the goal here is to ensure a smooth and efficient construction process. By taking these steps, we can ensure a smooth and efficient construction process, free from the pitfalls of logic loops. Today, we've learned about the concept of logic loops and how they can impact construction projects. We've unraveled the mystery behind logic loops, revealing that they are, in essence, a violation of the unidirectional flow from the start to completion of a project. We've seen that they create an impossible situation where a predecessor activity cannot start until a successor activity is completed. We've taken a deep dive into the world of construction, exploring how these logic loops can sneak into our project plans. We've seen that they not only result in impossible network logic, but also prevent the schedule from being calculated using the forward and backward pass technique. We've also looked at the impact of logic loops in construction. We've understood that they can lead to delays, cost overruns, and even project failure. They can turn a well-planned project into a logistical nightmare, creating a ripple effect that impacts every aspect of the project. But it's not all doom and gloom. We've also explored strategies for avoiding these logic loops in construction. We've discussed the importance of careful planning, meticulous scheduling, and thorough monitoring of the project. Remember, understanding and avoiding logic loops is key to ensuring the success of your construction projects. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more insightful content.